Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here either. Couldn't tell you. Okay, 5 chapters remaining until the grand finale of the fairy tale manga that we can all predictably see coming. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay, just so that we're all on the same page of the spell book right here. Acnologia will be defeated by everybody banding together through the power of friendship, and then that's how the manga's gonna end, alright? So let's just all get that out of the way now, alright? I've been getting way more recommendations than I should have to talk about this. I have my own plans for this. I'm gonna be doing this big video, kind of doing an analysis on the entire fairy tale story after the manga has wrapped up. But hey, 5 chapters remaining. I guess I have some stuff to say, so that's what we're doing here. So let's go through it. This will be chapter 541, The Magic of Hope. Feel the power of that good, nutritious hope as we formulate a plan to take down Acnologia. The plan, of course, just being like, let's just work together, guys, and everything will probably turn out okay. This is fairy tale, so it's more of, let's all work together, guys, and everything will 136% work out okay. So, the Dragon Slayers being freed through the power of... I don't want to say through the power of friendship, because I've already made that joke, 6 times in, the 2 minutes this video's been going on. But I really don't have any other way to explain it. They literally just break free of their, the bindings of the Dragon King himself that rules the powers of time and space now. They just break free of their bindings because they heard the voices of their friends calling, and that's just how that goes. But they're all beat to shit. They've all had their separate battles. They're already weakened. I'm sorry. That was a little bit too much of logic thrown in there. No, they're all ready to battle. They're, of course, at full strength. They're ready to go. Any battles that they've had previously, any stamina that they've lost, any ill effects from being imprisoned by Acnologia, of course, that plays no role whatsoever. What does play a big role, though, is Wendy performing her armament, or her a heightened magic, the magic to bolster people's defenses and speed, and her God's Knight Deus Ex shit. That, of course, as we've seen through many times in the story, has provided enough power to do absolutely jack shit to Acnologia. So we were at the core bottom there. We were at the absolute bottom of the well. It was like an ant trying to fight a fucking giant. There's no way. But now we've upgraded to a frog trying to take down a giant. Gagio tries to stab him. It does shit. Sting and Rogue try to double team Acnologia. That does shit. Acnologia just kind of points over to the left and they just get wiped away by the shockwave or whatever. Loxus and Cobra try to do their shit. It doesn't do anything. Cobra admits, I can't hear the voice of his heart. And, they're pretty much up shit creek, and that paddle has floated so goddamn down into the depths of the murky ooze that there is no coming back from this. Logically, there should be no way back from this. There really shouldn't be any way that they should be able to beat him. It's kind of the same shit we had when Bleach ended, It's there's no logical way that Ichigo should be able to defeat Yuha at this point. But at least with Bleach, we didn't have that constant, way to get out of most fights. So it actually had me guessing up until the end, how is this going to go down? But with Fairy Tail, there's no tension. There's no intensity. There's no, oh man, how are they going to get out of this? I'm reading this fight and I'm just bored. I'm bored because I can telegraph you exactly what's going to happen. They're going to get the shit beat out of them over and over and over again, and just all of a sudden they're gonna win. That's what's gonna happen. They're just gonna be there's no way you'll be able to win. There's no way you can even touch me. Acnologia even says it. He actually says this in kind of a condescending way. It's, do you know why they call me the Dragon King? I don't know, because you're the strongest dragon. I'm the strongest dragon in the world! Now, of course, he said that as kind of condescendingly, but it still didn't hit home. It didn't make me feel like this guy's a badass, or this guy's wow, I should really fear him, because you know how it's gonna go down. You just fucking know. But the bigger concern, I think, rather than Acnologia fighting against the Dragon Slayers in the ravines of time, I think the bigger concern is the giant, mindless Acnologia that is now vastly approaching Magnolia, ready to nuke every single thing in its path. That might actually be a way cooler way to end it, you know? Just like make this like Day After Tomorrow 2012 disaster movie fair. That would at least be a little bit more entertaining, I feel. But it's okay, because Lucy's got a plan here. Everyone's kind of around being like, well, the only way we could defeat Acnologia is if we had Dragon Slayer magic. I call bullshit on that right there, because from what we've seen in this story so far, having Dragon Slayer magic does not mean you're going to be able to defeat dragons. I think that has also been pretty much shown so far. And it's like, maybe we can defeat it with weapons. And Urza's like, no, you can't defeat it with weapons unless they're enchanted with Dragon Slayer magic. Once again, even if you had that, even if you had a giant fuck-off sword, you know, that's been enchanted out the ass with Dragon Slayer magic, it's probably not gonna work. Acnologia, at least the dragon form of Acnologia, has been proven to be a whole new class, a whole new level. The only thing that could even scratch the surface of him is what we've already established is the power of unity and friendship. So, you know, that's what Lucy's basically come up with here. She does keep it secret for a little while. You'd think in this rather, you know, harrowing moment where every second counts, she thinks you would just say, you know, what you wanted to say, what your plan was, but she keeps it a secret a little while until later in the chapter. Lucy's plan is to use Fairy Sphere. It's to, because it's the great magic of bonds and friendship. Yeah. Makes more sense considering that it was able to actually resist Acnologia the first time. I'm like, okay, that's actually an idea. That's actually something that would make sense beyond just the power of unity and friendship and all that bullshit. That actually oh no, in Fairy Tail it's not all bullshit. That actually makes sense, because that's what Mavis used on Tenrojima that was able to resist the blast from Acnologia. Her plan is to trap it inside the sphere. Now, one would question some other things like, okay, well, even once you trap it inside the sphere, you know, how are you going to keep it in the sphere? I mean, that magic only worked for like, you know, it worked for like 7 years. It kept you in like temporal stasis, but you know, I guess they'll worry about that when the time comes. The first step of this plan, and of course it's a plan that has to involve everybody pulling together to try to get through this. And, you know what? I wouldn't even have such a problem with that, considering that it's the end of the story, you know? It's the end of a manga, so of course you want to try to get everybody in on it. That's one thing I'm actually not that, you know, that mad about. It's just that it's not going to require probably a lot of, you know, quick wit or a lot of, like the plot is actually changed in a way that you didn't see coming. It's probably all just going to boil down to just believe in each other and then we can manage to succeed at everything. That's probably what's going to go down here at the end. And that's why it's very predictable, and I'm not a great fan of it. But okay, you want to get everybody in on it? Sure, all right, fine. So you get Minerva, you get Sabretooth. They're gonna try to lure Acnologia away to Hargion, the port town of Hargion. And once he gets to Hargion, Juvia and Gray and Mest are all gonna try to get a giant boat to somehow get Acnologia to land on, so he succumbs to the Dragon Slayer's natural weakness, that is, you know, movement, and then you'll be able to trap him in Fairy Sphere somehow. This plan doesn't seem like it's been thought out all too well. There's so many things that can go wrong here. For one thing, they don't even know how to use Fairy Sphere. They don't know the spell at all. Even Makarov doesn't know it. They have to like break into like 3 separate teams. It's like, all right, Lucy and Levi are going to go to the library in Fairy Tail to try to get a spell book that has Fairy Sphere. Meanwhile, the Sabretooth Guild is going to try to lure Acnologia the Dragon to Hargion. Meanwhile, they're going to try to get him on a giant boat. Meanwhile, they're going to somehow get Lucy and Levi, that after acquiring the spell, over to that location to trap Acnologia in a sphere. There are so many ways that this plan can fail. It's almost laughable, but you know it's gonna work. So okay, that's what we're going with. Fine. I will also question, like, at the end of the chapter, like, Makarov doesn't even know, like, where the book is. They're like, isn't there a book somewhere? And Makarov's like, yeah, I think the first mention there was. Like, you think the first mention there was. Like, Makarov, I know you just came back from the dead for, like, the fifth time, but you'd think that you would know this, being the master of fairy tale. The 3 great spells of fairy tale. Fairy Law, which you already know. Fairy Glitter, which you knew the location of. You knew exactly where it was located. But Fairy Sphere, that one you've kind of lost to the ages. That one's just been kind of like, I don't know where the fuck it is, you know. I think it's in one of these books in this giant library. You think we keep that kind of sectioned off? Like, here's the book that contains the last great defensive spell of fairy tale. Yeah, just stack it in there next to the porn and the science fiction. I don't know. So yeah, they're just to add tension that's going nowhere. Meanwhile, we cut back into the ravines of time. Still, Dragon Slayers have no fucking hope here at all. It's here that Acnologia finally explains his purpose, the reason he's doing all this. And you know what? It's actually really, really, really clever the way that Hero did this. Yeah, that's destruction. That is all. Okay, actually, let's pause the sarcasm for a second. That might actually not be too bad. If you were going to set up Acnologia as more of just a force of nature that had no like, you know, human will, didn't have the ability of speech, it was just a dragon that just nuked everything, which is, by the way, how Acnologia was originally set up as. Just this dragon that nuked everything in its path. It was just basically like a natural disaster. But now that you gave him a human form and this condescending, arrogant as all hell, cliche as fuck, anime villain, badass sort of persona, it just doesn't work anymore, you know? If you were going to keep him as just the final villain of the story, not really a villain, more of just like a force of nature that the Fairy Tail Guild has to overcome, I would prefer that to just the standard cliche villain we got. Because that's what Acnologia wants to do. I just want to destroy everything. I want to destroy all humans and destroy everything that humanity has created, and I guess rule the world or destroy the world. Here's a question. What happens? Here's a question to anybody. Any cliche villain that presents this idea. I want to destroy the world. I want to kill everything. Okay. What after that? Acnologia wipes out every human on the planet. The entire world is just this empty void. Acnologia does what? What's the final goal here? Hell, even with Yuha, at the end of Bleach, you can at least give him some credit. He wasn't just trying to eliminate the world just for the fucking sake of eliminating the world. He was actually trying to do something with it. He was like, I'm gonna take the living world and the Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, and I'm gonna smash them all together back into their original form, what they used to be, and whatever that was gonna be. That actually was at least a little bit of a, okay, that's interesting. That's actually interesting. Where's that gonna go? What's it gonna be like? That's at least a plan. Here, it's just like, you know, I'm still this natural disaster that wants to destroy everything. It's just that I now have this really arrogant, cliche personality that just makes me a one-note villain. And I am the final villain of this entire story. But you know what? That's actually okay. Well, not okay, but it's actually, it's what has to happen. It's what has to be the case. Because when you have a villain so horribly one-note as Acnologia, that just wants destruction for destruction's sake on the pure end of the chaotic evil spectrum, of course, that force has to be matched with the lawful good nature of Fairy Tail and Natsu of just, we're gonna defeat your pure 100% cliche destruction evil with our pure undiluted 100% friendship power of good. So, black and white as fucking black and white as you can get, just opposing forces. Maybe some of you are into that, and you know what? Even in theory, I'm not against that completely. It's just that there is no tension here. There is no excitement at all. Good is gonna triumph over evil. If Hero actually pulls a 180 here, and that doesn't end the way that I just explained to you it's going to end, then I will eat this fucking scarf. Alright? I didn't buy this, by the way. Someone just sent it to me. It's like I'm a freaking, like a magnet for all this shit. Okay. So, yeah, that's the chapter. That's pretty much it. The end of it is just, Lucy putting her plan in motion, going to get Fairy Sphere. All the other teams are all splitting up to try to take down Acnologia and all that crap. You know what? I'm not even throwing out the idea that Zareth and Mavis might make another appearance at this point. They might show up to try to help. You know how they had that sort of kind of good, halfway decent, closure to their stories a few chapters ago? How they're both, they're both really dead now, walking off into the, the distance, and they're finally going to be together. That, for all we know, might just be kind of like snuffed out, and they might just pop in later as ghosts and like, we're going to lend you guys a hand. And be like, oh, okay, well, they're still around. All right, fine. I think a lot of people are probably going to ask me at this point, why do you read... And I get this a few times, and I've defended this. People asking me, why do you read a manga that you don't like? Or why do you read a manga that you do not find an enjoyment or tension in anymore? If the fights are so blah and boring, why do you read them? I think it's different depending on the medium that you're talking about here. If we're talking about a video game or a movie or a television show, I don't. I simply don't keep on with the story if it's not an entertaining story. If it's a movie, if that movie does not have me, engrossed in the first 10 minutes or so, I'm going to turn off the movie. With television shows, it's like maybe I'll give it like an episode or two. If it's not for me, I'm going to stop. Because that's taking up a time out of my day, Like, I'm not going to get invested in this 2-hour movie if in the first 10 minutes it didn't do anything for me. If I'm bored out of my mind, I'm just going to put it off. I could do other things. Reading one manga chapter a week. I read this chapter of Fairy Tail in literally less than 3 minutes. Okay? So, I mean, I could read it, I couldn't read it. It's not going to have any real impact on my day. It's only like a once-a-week kind of fare. And it's important to mention that it did not start out that way. Allow me to clarify, and I'll go into more detail when I do the actual video, the big event video. But Fairy Tail has a problem with repetition. It has a problem with ending a lot of its fights the same way. It has a lot of problems with the villains in each arc seeming kind of like carbon copies of each other. The basic plot's not really going anywhere, setting up really big, crazy events that lead nowhere. Really big build-up, really shitty payoff, I should say. And it's always had those problems, but near the beginning of the story, of course, you're not going to notice them because they haven't been done before. But right around the Arashion Seis arc, right around the Tenrojima arc, right around then, I guess Edalus 2 is right in the middle of there, you start to notice these things. You start to notice that there's a little bit of repetition here. And then by the time you get to the Daimento Embu, and by the time you get to the arcs after that, it's so kind of obvious that it's like, okay, I see exactly what you're doing here, hero. I see exactly how this story is going. I don't know if you lost your passion or you just realized that, all right, just don't fix what's not broken and just keep up with the same kind of formula. Really big setup to a character, really big build up to, oh man, this character's going to be badass, and then just, whatever. He gets one-shotted. It's no big deal, and then just rinse and repeat. Characters are dead now. I can jerk my audience around with that all the time. Wendy and Charlotte are going to die. Well, let's make sure that there's a really emotional chapter where you might feel some emotion for them. And then they get saved, and then all that emotion just gets destroyed. Or, Gajiel's gonna die, and Levy's gonna confess his love. That's not gonna go anywhere. Let's keep Gajiel alive. It's something where it's like, if it happened once or twice, even the friendship thing, like even the thing where it's like, I'm gonna win because of friendship, or I'm gonna win because I'm Urza, or I'm gonna win because this person's shouting for me to win, it's anime, it's manga. If you want to do that once or twice in your story, I think I can let you off on that, but you cannot abuse that. If you abuse that, then it just makes it seem like the characters have access to some invincibility power that just can never be matched at all. And that's where we are right now. So I hope you enjoy the next 4 predictable-ass chapters of Fairy Tail. Acnologia will probably still get some hits in. you know, he'll make it look like there's nothing they can do, and then they'll all believe in each other and they'll hold hands, and then Natsu and the other Dragon Slayers will wipe the floor with Acnologia, maybe with some help with Zareth. And then we'll cut back to the Fairy Tale Guilds, and we'll cut back to Sabretooth all trying to trap Acnologia in this plan that could fail in so many ways, but it won't because they're there together. Maybe Mavis will help out with that because Fairy Sphere is involved. And so they'll trap Acnologia in the fucking depths of the ocean, or they'll throw him into space or some bullshit. And then the end of the series will be everybody standing out in front of the Fairy Tale Guild all smiling, and it's a fairy tale ending. Good job, everybody. Good job. Well, I hope the massive amounts of sarcasm haven't, killed you, but, it's either I go into a seething, ranting rage where I'm like, God damn it, fucking fairy tale, or it's just a ceaseless loop of sarcasm, and, I don't really feel like straining my throat that much today, so I went with the sarcasm route. That's where we're at right now. That's just the case. So, yeah. 4 more to go. Maybe catch you back here next time. Signing out.